The chamber of the Galactic Council was vast enough to swallow stars. Its crystalline walls hummed with the collected voices of 417 species, each one certain of humanity's irrelevance. High Chancellor Zareth stood at the center dais, his four arms spread wide in what his species called the posture of magnanimous authority. His iridescent scales caught the ambient light as he surveyed the assembled delegates, and at the very back, barely afforded a seat at the table, the small human delegation. "The motion," Zareth announced, his translator implant perfectly modulating the clicks and resonances of his native tongue, "is simple. Humanity's outer colonies will be reclassified as contested developmental zones. The Vreth Collective has rightful expansion claims, and the Council finds those claims compelling." Admiral Darian Voss did not move. She sat with her hands folded on the table, her dark eyes fixed somewhere in the middle distance. She had been sitting exactly like that for 6 hours. The Vreth ambassador kept glancing at her, clearly expecting outrage. The Solian delegates whispered to each other, waiting for the famous human emotional display they had all heard about. Darian gave them nothing. She was 53 years old. She had buried friends on 7 different worlds. She had watched Earth's first diplomatic envoys return from this very council with smiles on their faces and empty hands, having been politely stripped of 3 star systems and told to be grateful they were permitted membership at all. That had been 40 years ago. She had been patient for 40 years. "Admiral Voss," Zareth said, almost as an afterthought. "Your delegation may offer final remarks before the vote." Darian stood. She did not speak immediately. She looked around the chamber, really looked, taking in each species with the kind of slow, deliberate attention that made the smaller delegates shift uncomfortably. The Vreth ambassador's gill slits fluttered. The Solian clustermind flickered its bioluminescent patches in what any xenobiologist would have recognized as nervousness. "I want to make sure I understand the motion correctly," Darian said at last. Her voice was quiet. Unreasonably quiet for the size of the room. "The Council intends to award the Vreth Collective territorial rights over 42 human colony worlds. Worlds that humanity has inhabited, terraformed, and defended for an average of 60 Earth years each. Worlds with a combined population of 11 billion human beings." "The legal framework," Zareth began. "I'm not finished, Chancellor." The room went very still. In 40 years of council proceedings, no one had interrupted Zareth. He had the longest tenure of any High Chancellor in recorded galactic history. He was accustomed to a particular kind of deference. He looked at Darian with his 4 amber eyes, and something old and instinctive stirred in his hindbrain. A memory his species carried from the predatory dark of their evolutionary past. The recognition of something that had stopped running. "I want to make something clear," Darian continued, moving slowly around the table. Not aggressively. Conversationally. As if she were taking a walk. Humanity has been a member of this council for 40 years. In that time, we have voted in favor of council resolutions 4,211 times. We have contributed resources to collective defense efforts on 18 separate occasions, including twice when the conflicts involved species that have never once voted in our favor. We have accepted 11 territorial arbitrations. We lost every single one. She paused beside the Vreth ambassador's station. The ambassador, 8-limbed, ancient, certain of its species' dominance, did not look at her. "We accepted those losses," Darian said, "because we believed in the process. Because humans are, above most things, capable of patience. Of waiting. Of trusting that fairness is a destination, if you walk long enough." She resumed walking. "I have spent 40 years walking." The silence in the chamber had a texture now. The kind of silence that precedes thunder, not empty, but loaded. Even the translation matrices had gone quiet, every delegate listening through their own implants with peculiar, focused attention. 3 months ago, Darian said, I submitted a formal request to this council. evidence that the Vreth Collective has been conducting unauthorized resource extraction on the surfaces of 4 human colony worlds, in direct violation of Provisional Protectorate law. I submitted it with documentation. With testimony. With sensor logs. She turned to face the chamber. The council tabled the matter for review. Zareth's secondary eyelids flickered. The review process requires. I know what it requires, Chancellor. I've memorized the procedural code. Both versions, the one that applies to council members with majority bloc support, and the one that applies to us. A Solian delegate made a low, harmonic sound. It might have been discomfort. I am going to be very honest with this body, Darian said, and now her voice carried something new, not anger, not grief, but something far more dangerous. The tone of a person who has finished calculating and arrived at a number. I came here today prepared to argue. To present evidence. To appeal to the principles this council was supposedly founded on. She pulled a small data chip from her uniform and set it gently on the table before her. This chip contains full documentation of Vreth violations. It also contains the records of every arbitration decision that has gone against humanity in the last 4 decades, cross-referenced against the voting affiliations of the arbitration panels. She let that land. The correlation is educational. Are you implying corruption? Zareth demanded. I'm not implying anything. The mathematics imply it. I'm just the person who finally ran the numbers. Darian looked at the chip for a moment, then back up. But I'm not here to argue. Not today. I'm here to inform. She reached into her coat and produced a second item, a folded document, physical paper, which was so archaic a medium that several delegates had to consult their cultural databases to identify it. 48 hours ago, the Human Confederation Assembly voted on Resolution 7 Omega. It passed with 91% approval. She unfolded the paper. Effective immediately, humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council's arbitration framework. We are establishing sovereign defense perimeters around all inhabited human worlds, extending 15 light minutes from each colony's outermost orbital station. Any vessel entering those perimeters without explicit human authorization will be treated as a hostile incursion. The room erupted. 417 species found their voices simultaneously. Zareth was on his feet, all 4 arms gesturing. The Vreth ambassador finally looked at Darian, and she met his gaze with an expression that was not triumphant, not angry, just tired, and absolutely resolved. She waited for the noise to subside. She was very good at waiting. You cannot unilaterally, Zareth began. We can, Darian said. The membership charter, Article 12, subsection 4, explicitly reserves sovereign defense rights to all member species. We've simply never invoked it before. She refolded the paper with the same precise care she'd used to unfold it. We are not leaving the council. We are not declaring war on anyone. We are simply done allowing our worlds to be discussed as negotiating chips by parties who have never once visited them. She looked around the chamber one final time. 11 billion people live on those 42 worlds. They have hospitals and schools and arguments about local politics and restaurants and children who have never known any home but those planets. They are not a resource allocation problem. They are not a territorial abstraction. Her voice remained level, but something in it had the weight of a planet finding its orbit. We should have said this clearly a long time ago. That is our failure, and we own it. But we are saying it now. She gathered her materials. The Human Confederation will continue to honor its mutual defense treaties with species who have honored theirs. We remain open to genuine diplomatic engagement. But this, she gestured at the chamber, at the dais, at the entire magnificent machinery of galactic bureaucracy, will no longer be the room where human lives are bargained away. She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, High Chancellor Zareth stood at his dais, his 4 hands still raised in the posture of magnanimous authority, addressing a room that had stopped listening to him. The door whispered shut. In the corridor outside, Darian Voss leaned against the wall for exactly 3 seconds, eyes closed, breathing. Then she straightened, pulled out her comm unit, and opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships," she said quietly. "Stand by." 40 years of patience had just become something else entirely. The galaxy would take some time to understand what it had spent those 40 years building. No species ever agreed on exactly when it happened. They only agreed, later, that humanity had been extraordinarily polite about it, right up until the moment they weren't.